It started about 2 years ago. I'd spent 30-odd years in the tech world, built a couple of small companies, sold one, worked my way up in others. I wasn't looking to slow down, not really. I still had that buzz, that feeling, when you're onto something good, building something that matters. My last role had ended, company got bought out, new folks brought in their own team. Happens all the time. So, there I was, 58 years old, looking for the next thing. I saw this opening at a company called Innovate Solutions. They were doing exciting work in renewable energy tech. Right up my alley. They talked a big game about fresh ideas, dynamic culture, changing the world. I felt a spark. This wasn't just a job. This felt like a place I could really sink my teeth into, use everything I'd learned. The role was Chief Operating Officer, a big job, managing the day-to-day, making sure the ship sailed smoothly and fast. Perfect for me. I polished up my resume, wrote a cover letter that came straight from the heart, and sent it off. I got a call back pretty quickly. The first couple of interviews went great. I talked to department heads, engineers, even had a brief chat with the then CEO. I felt like I clicked with them. We talked strategy, challenges, growth. I felt sharp, engaged. I knew my stuff, and I felt like they saw that. I left those meetings feeling genuinely hopeful, almost excited. Then came the final round. It was with the CEO again, and 2 board members. This one felt different. The energy in the room was cooler. They asked good questions, but I noticed their eyes kind of glazing over when I talked about projects from 10, 15 years ago, even though those experiences were directly relevant. There were subtle questions about my energy levels, my familiarity with current digital trends, even though my whole career was in digital trends, and whether I felt comfortable in a fast-paced, youth-driven environment. I answered honestly, confidently. I talked about mentoring younger teams, about how experience helps you avoid pitfalls, how I stayed current. I thought I handled it well. But walking out, I had this nagging feeling. It wasn't anything specific, someone said, more like a vibe. Like I was a classic car they admired, but they really wanted a brand new electric racer. A week later, the email came. Standard stuff mostly. Thank you for your interest. Highly competitive field. Decided to move forward with another candidate. But then came the line that stuck in my gut. Tucked away in the feedback paragraph, supposedly to be helpful, was something about seeking a candidate who better fit the long-term dynamic energy profile they were building. Dynamic energy profile. It felt like a weak code for we want someone younger. It hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just rejection. It felt personal. It felt like they weren't judging my skills or experience, but just the number of years I'd been alive. Suddenly, all that experience felt like baggage, not an asset. I was angry, really angry. Then came the wave of self-doubt. Were they right? Was I kidding myself? Was I just an old guy trying to hang on in a young person's game? It shook my confidence. I told my wife Sarah, and she was furious on my behalf. Their loss, Mark, she said, fiercely loyal. They're idiots, if they can't see what you bring. Her support helped, but that phrase, dynamic energy profile, echoed in my head for weeks. I tried to brush it off. I applied for other jobs, had a few interviews, but the Innovate Solutions rejection lingered. It made me second-guess myself in other interviews. Was I coming across as old? Was I talking too much about the past? It was a miserable few months. I started thinking maybe it was time to slow down, maybe do some consulting, play more golf. The fire in my belly felt like it had dimmed a bit. Then, about 6 months later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mark, it's Alan Forrester. I recognized the name instantly. He was one of the board members from that final interview at Innovate Solutions. My heart gave a weird little jump. Yes, Alan. I tried to keep my voice even. Mark, we need to talk. Are you free for a coffee? Perhaps tomorrow. My mind raced. Why were they calling me? Had the other guy quit already? Was this some kind of follow-up insult? Curiosity won out over pride. Yes, I said. Tomorrow works. We met at a quiet coffee shop. Alan looked tired. He didn't beat around the bush. Mark, we made a mistake, he said, looking me straight in the eye. The candidate we hired for coup. Well, it didn't work out. Lots of flash, but not enough substance. Couldn't handle the pressure. Made some bad calls. He paused, took a sip of coffee. And frankly, the CEO hasn't been performing either. The board, we've been discussing a change in leadership. a significant one. I just listened, waiting. The company needs stability, Mark. It needs experience. It needs someone who knows how to build things that last, not just chase the next shiny object. We were so focused on finding someone who looked the part of a young disruptor. We overlooked what we actually needed. He leaned forward slightly. The board met last night. We voted to remove the current CEO, and we voted unanimously to offer the position to you. I stared at him. CEO, not coup, but CEO. The top job at the company that told me I didn't have the right energy profile. The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. My first instinct was to say no. A very loud, very satisfying no. To tell him exactly what I thought of their dynamic energy profile nonsense. The hurt from that rejection was still raw. But then, I thought about the company. Innovate Solutions. Despite everything, I still believed in what they were trying to do. The renewable energy mission mattered. And the challenge. Running the whole show. Fixing the mess. Proving them wrong. Proving myself right. That old fire started to flicker. Back to life stronger this time. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about the opportunity. It was about finishing what I felt I was meant to start. It was about showing them, and maybe myself, that experience wasn't a liability. It was the foundation you built success on. Alan, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. You know why? I was rejected for the coup role, don't you? He nodded, looking a bit ashamed. I do. It was short-sighted. Age was definitely a factor in the conversation. Even if it was dressed up in corporate speak, it was wrong. Hearing him admit it, that mattered. I took a deep breath. Okay, Alan, let's talk details. If I come in, things will change. I lead my way. That's exactly what we want, Mark, he said, relief flooding his face. That's what we need. Walking into Innovate Solutions as the new CEO a few weeks later was surreal. Some of the faces I recognized from my interviews looked surprised, maybe a little uncomfortable. The outgoing CEO was frosty. The first few weeks were tough. There were messes to clean up, trust to build, and a culture that needed a dose of reality. I didn't dwell on the past. I didn't rub anyone's nose in it. I just got to work. I focused on the team, on the mission. I listened more than I talked, especially at first. I brought in some structure, some discipline, but also tried to protect that spark of innovation they had. I made sure to champion good ideas. Wherever they came from, the youngest intern or the most seasoned engineer. Slowly, things started to turn around. We hit some key milestones. The mood in the office lifted. People started seeing that experience didn't mean slow or outdated. It meant perspective. It meant knowing which fires to fight and which to let burn themselves out. It's been over a year now. It's still challenging, but it's good. Really good. Sometimes, late at night in the office, looking over the plans for our next project, I think back to that rejection email. Dynamic energy profile. I guess they got their energy, just not the kind they initially thought they wanted. Turns out, experience has its own kind of power, and it feels pretty damn DY.